Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tank12, however you call me, I don't really care. Welcome back to World of Tanks. And yes, we're back in World of Tanks. It has taken us 2 weeks. Unfortunately, because of real life obligations, I wasn't really able to come around and have a live stream. At least the last week I wasn't able to live stream. Hopefully, when this video has been released, I've been able to live stream again. And yes, World of Tanks is still the main objective of this channel. Don't worry, I did make one War Thunder video, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be becoming a main War Thunder kind of YouTube channel. Now, disappointment is going to be the title of this video. Somehow I'm going to be adding disappointment into it because I just recently I've played like a couple of premium tanks like the last 2 weeks, last 2 weeks ago, because I needed the credits to be able to buy some tier 10 vehicles, right? And I've stumbled across a premium tank that I've completely pushed away out of my mind, and I actually have two types of, the VK168 and the VK168.01 Mauerbrecher. This tank I did buy 3 years ago when it came out at the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall and the unification of Germany. Now this tank, you have to know a little bit about the history of my World of Tanks career. I started playing heavy tanks very early on, and heavy tanks were my, let's say, my safe space at the beginning of World of Tanks. You can see my 5 most played tanks, 4 of them are heavy tanks, 1 of them is a medium tank, but it has shifted. I have evolved, I've changed quite a bit, and I've started playing medium tanks, light tanks, a lot more than heavy tanks. And this is kind of, you know, a bit of history. Now, why did I buy this tank? I don't really recall. I played a couple of games now, and I realized, like, I don't really see the appeal of having this tank in the game, but it's a really weird thing because I'm gonna get to that point just in a second, because this tank is actually quite balanced. It is a German tier 8 premium heavy tank that goes into the direction of the VK100, but it's basically worse in every aspect compared to the VK100. The VK100, which is a standard heavy tank, is actually better in basically every aspect than the VK168. Now, that is actually a good thing because premium tanks shouldn't be better than their non-premium counterpart, right? But unfortunately, because of the policy that Wargaming have made about certain other premium tanks, such as the Defender, such as the Scorpion G, the Object 703, the IS-3A, how overpowered they are, how blatantly overpowered they are, the VK168 just doesn't really gets appreciated at all. And I can understand why, because this tank is just not very good. It's basically a worse VK, and it doesn't really work with the armor anymore. The armor just doesn't work as intended because people are using premium shells. That combined with a pretty bad gun handling, bad reload time, not good DPM, makes this one of the worst premium tanks at tier 8 that you can actually buy, at least for me. Now obviously this is quite subjective because it's not just statistics. I'm also a guy who doesn't like to play extremely super heavily armored tanks that are very sluggish but maybe can, you know, survive certain blind shots or certain shots if you use the armor correctly. But with the VK, there is just no way that you can really be 100% effective with your armor. And that obviously is not going to be the target, but there are a lot of downsides to this tank that just make this not a very enjoyable experience, at least for me. Now you can see I have 38% win rate. I haven't really played a lot of games in it, and it's just basically a remnant of my tank collector days where I just bought premium tanks because I was a tank collector and I didn't really care that much about their, let's say, battle performance. Those times definitely have changed, thank God, and I'm no longer just buying premium tanks for, you know, for the heck of it. I'm no longer buying premium tanks because of this weird kind of stance where I feel like I'm obligated to buy a premium tank because I cannot be kept out of the loop. And I think the Berlin is the perfect, or not the Berlin, the Mauerbrecher is the perfect example with like how a balanced premium tank is just not a very good premium tank, and a tank that is not enjoyable at all, because basically every single tank in this list here is better than I am. Everything in this game is basically premium, except for the Centurion and not the Oho, the Centurion, the Oho, and that's it. And the FV. Every other tank in here is basically premium. There are 13 tanks that are premium. Only 2 of them, like only 3, no, it's 12 tanks, sorry. No wait, it's the Oho, it's the Centurion, and it's the FVS. 12 tanks are premium, 3 tanks are non-premium. And I'd say, I'm not really sure, but I could say that the Oho is better than the Mauerbrecher. I could, like, that would be quite, I'd say that would be quite a shameful thing to admit, but I could say that it's a better vehicle. Now, obviously, when I first got this tank, I knew what I was getting myself into. It's not like I bought this tank kind of blind. I know that it's a premium tank. I know that it doesn't, that it has the armor and it's supposed to be similar to, let's say, the Maus or the VK and that playstyle. I know that like the armor will be neglected if people are starting to shoot premium shells. And I also know that the armor on the turret is one of the biggest issues that I have with this tank. It actually has a cupola on top, which I also really disliked on the Mäuschen, which is the tier 9 German heavy tank, which leads up to the Maus, which was added a couple of years ago. Does that mean you cannot work with this tank? No, absolutely not. This tank can still be utilized, I'd say, in certain situations. You can still work it. The problem is just, it's not a very good tank. It's not very capable. If you're on your own and you don't really have a lot of tank support, you're going to be struggling with this vehicle. I have to fall back right here because our IS-3 is going to be outflanked and probably stormed by several vehicles. And I hope that the IS-3 actually moves backwards, so I'm just gonna tell him to retreat, because we need to be able to hold this angle, because we don't have a lot of support right here. Now, another thing that you have to get used to when you're playing this tank is that it has horrible shell velocity, and what you can see right here is that the armor just doesn't hold up. It has horrible shell velocity of 810 meters per second. The side armor is really weak. You can see that people are shooting premium shells as well to go right through. And the turret armor is also very weak. We did get penned by that Tiger II who hit our cupola on top. So the armor that you have on this tank actually doesn't work. So you're kind of left with a tank that is just not very good at fending for itself. And it was like one of the first premium tanks where I really had the feeling that I just got completely disappointed in the way that, or like in the package that I did receive. Obviously, I'm also not playing the best World of Tanks at the moment because I might be a bit rusty since I haven't played in 2 weeks. But having to play this tank in this situation with the very limited mobility and the armor that just doesn't really work as well as, I'd say, for example, the VK 100's armor, you're kind of in an area where you just don't really enjoy playing the game. If you bought this tank because it looked cool, and you bought this as the only premium tank that you have, you must be completely disappointed, because the battle performance of this vehicle is really bad. You're basically an HP pinata for every other vehicle in the game at tier 8. We were penned by an ISM with a stock gun on the side. Now obviously, well, I did give him quite a bit of a flat surface there. It's 130 millimeters thick. And I'm not screaming for 200 millimeters of armor and making it incredibly powerful. But the thing is that premium tanks have become so incredible powerful, and you could just see how many people are using premium shells, because there were like 2 heat shells that were coming in from the SU-130 PM, maybe the Type 59, no, that has APCR, but one heat shell at least, and people are using premium shells. The armor is not really that important anymore. Mobility is way, way more important than armor. Being fast and having armor is really, really good, and that's just the new meta. And having a tank such as the Mauerbrecher is not going to be cutting it anymore. Now this 122 TM suffers a very similar kind of fate like the Mauerbrecher. It's one thing that is like the big selling point for this tank is its 122mm gun that is able to do quite a bit of damage at tier 8, but the damage per minute that you have in this vehicle is very, very, very bad. So you much rather play the CS52 Liz, where you're going to be able to do quite a bit of damage, and where you don't have to worry about, you know, the rate of fire, and you still have decent amount of pen, and your damage output is also quite good as well. So those things do matter, and tanks such as the Mauerbrecher, other premium tanks such as the T-34, they have no more place in this game. That is, I'd say, that's a given. That's something that I've noticed a long time ago, and that is a shame, because I'd say those tanks were actually balanced. The Mauerbrecher certainly is a balanced tank. The T-34 is a balanced tank because of its very, very long reload, and because it's really good at being hull down. But being good at hull down now is no longer a really important feature, because everybody is good at hull down. There are a lot of Soviet tanks that are good at being hull down right now, and that is incredibly weird, because if you think about it, that was a trait that Soviet tanks were capable of before, but not in the extent that we have right now. Let's say, okay, the IS-7 obviously was pretty good, but never had the gun depression. But the Object 705A, like those things have changed in this game, and not always for the better, and that's just something you have to get used to. I think my team is going to lose this. Like, this is my personal expectation right now. We do have an artillery piece, but what they do have is 3 very gnarly and nasty tank destroyers. We have 2 of them, and they have quite a bit of map control, but we are spread out quite nicely, so maybe this could be a close one. But either way, we're going to watch this through, but I'm not going to be talking about the Mauerbrecher anymore. I don't think I need to make a review about the Mauerbrecher. I think that's one of the worst tier 8 premium tanks I have in the game. It's also one of the least fun tanks. It's not very enjoyable. If you go up against tier 6 and tier 7 tanks, obviously it's not going to be an issue. You're going to be really, really powerful. But in these tier 8, tier 9, tier 10 engagements, you're just I don't know, you're a walking coffin. Everyone is just shitting on you, and like you're a walking toilet. That makes more sense. Everyone is shitting on you, and it's not that much fun. Looks like our Oho is hidden, and he just penned that Scorpion for 648. So yes, as I mentioned, my thesis that the Oho is better than the Mauerbrecher and is better than me does confirm itself. This Oho was, I'd say, he was quite smart, because he just kept out of like the entire fray over there, because he was not really that interested in getting shot at from several sides. So he kept his cool, and he stayed far away from the battlefield, and it did work out for him in the end. Jisoo almost flipped himself. Oh, I'm going to take it back. We're going to lose this game, because the Lansen decided to make a move, drive across the open valley, and get completely fucked by the G-Sor. So this is going to be a really nasty game now, because the G-Sor... Nope. The CS52 takes out the Lansen C, and now we have a really awkward scenario. We have an Oho that's low HP. They know that the Oho is over there. They're looking for the G-Sor now. The G-Sor is just going to move out. He's going to go into a bush probably. But the thing is, if the CS-52 and the G-SOR on the enemy team, if they stick together and they find this G-SOR, which I'll expect them to do in just a second, this G-SOR right here is going to be dead. Unless he is going to be able to take them out one by one and bounce a shot. So, yes, this G-SOR just did what I didn't expect him to do. So, he was actually doing it quite well, but unfortunately our G-SOR just dies to the other G-SOR. So yes, now we have an OHO versus a G-SOR with an artillery piece, and we know that the OHO doesn't stand a chance if the G-SOR is going to be going up against him. So what the OHO needs to do right now, he needs to get the high ground on him, which he actually has at the moment. If he can spot the G-SOR and just keep him on the wraps and not get himself exposed out there, he might win this game, because I'm pretty damn sure that the enemy team's G-SOR is going to be shooting premium shells, because the G-SOR is one of those disgusting tanks that has really, really bad pen with standard shells, but incredible pen with APCR shells. Unfortunately for us, the G-SOR does knock out our OHO, and we're going to be losing this match, unfortunately. Although our G-SOR did get 5 kills. Quite an interesting battle in the end, but an outcome that we couldn't really impact at all with our vehicle. We did get 1 kill. I'm not really sure who we did kill. We did kill the HWK-30, which was a complete waste for him. Maybe our artillery can one-shot it. I don't think he can, but it would be really funny if he could, you know, if the G-SOR pops around the corner and the FV-207 just ammo wrecks him with, I don't even know, some kind of incredible lucky shot. But either way, this is going to be a GG for the enemy team and a defeat for us. Looks like... Wait, did he spot him? Oh boy. The artillery just shot himself right there on the corner of the building. And we do go out of this game. We did more assistance damage than we did actual damage, and that says a lot about this heavy tank. It's one of the worst tanks I've ever played. It's the biggest disappointment in my garage, and it's a tank that I hopefully will never have to play again. And that's going to be something you'll have to get used to. When you're just a tank collector, you're going to be picking up certain vehicles that are just not very good. And I think the Mauerbrecher, I have 2 versions of them. I don't even know why I have the VK168, the standard one. Just don't get these tanks, they're really bad. And that's basically the last tank that's going to be released as a balanced vehicle, because Wargaming have noticed that people will not buy tanks that are balanced. They will only buy tanks that are really powerful. And thus our last chance of getting a balanced kind of tank as a premium has gone out of the window, because Wargaming have fucked themselves in the ass before they released the Mauerbrecher, and they are in no way, shape, in no form are they going to be able to go back towards the time when they actually released balanced premium tanks. That makes certain premium tanks obsolete until they give them a little bit of love. That means that the Mauerbrecher is going to be utterly useless. PAM 488 I actually enjoy. I don't even know why. I love the Mutz tanks. I know a lot of people dislike these tanks. Obviously the M6, the Mutant M6 is not very good anymore. The IS-5 is going to get a buff in the near future. The Super Pershing did get a buff. The T-34 is not going to be a competitive choice for anyone anymore. That tank is pretty much done. It's useless. The Jagdtiger 88 has preferential matchmaking, so that thing has pretty good battles going for itself, and I think the gun isn't too bad either. The FV4202 has quite tricky armor, but it's not as impressive as maybe the Centurion MK5 1. And yeah, there are certain other tanks, such as the FCM, where I have 37% win rate, as you can see, and probably other premium tanks at tier 8 that aren't very powerful anymore. And yeah, that's just the way that this game has gone. Like the development, how this game has evolved. It's pretty crazy how certain tanks, the EBRs, the Burrasque, how they've taken the place of certain tanks. But yeah, I'm gonna finish this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, have a good one and peace out.